Well, hello, podcast world, and hello, Rachel. It's so good to see you again. And we have our new mugs, don't we?
We do. We are fancy schmancy. I'm not telling you what's in mine.
No, neither am I. So, how are things with you, Rachel, today?
You know, I can't complain, and I also cannot complain that we have our friend, Mr. Thomas Foos, with us to talk a little bit about, I don't know, careers, maybe Armada. Excited you're here.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And before we get to our questions, I actually saw in our statistics that more than 75% of our listeners are listening on their mobile devices. So if you're on your mobile device and you're listening to our podcast, be sure that you're walking safely, driving safely, and taking care of yourself, because we want you to continue listening to us. So with that, Rachel, let's kick it off with Tom. What do we want to ask Tom today?
There's so many things, but I think it's important to start at the beginning. So Tom, we would love, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about your journey that led you from the Marines to being a leader at Armada. How'd you get there?
For those of you, I'll get into that, but we are at heart a security company. For those people on their mobile phones that are walking around and listening, make sure you're maintaining situational awareness, okay? Because people have a tendency to get distracted when they're on their phones. I tell my daughter that all the time. She lives in D.C., and she always calls when she's heading home from work, and she's always talking on the phone. And I said, honey, you got to maintain your situational awareness, because it's usually dark outside. So I'll just start off with that. So share our journey leading to Armada. Okay. As it listed, as talked about earlier, I was in the Marine Corps. I served 4 years active duty initially, and then joined the reserves, and then did another year of active duty during the Global War on Terror. I was activated one time for a year. My business partner, Jeff Pedracky, was also, he's an Air Force veteran. He was a pararescue jumper in the Air Force, which is their elite, if you will, their special operations folks within the Air Force. So after I got out of the military, off of active duty in the Marine Corps, I did some government jobs in the state of Ohio, and then jumped at an opportunity to get on with a company, a Fortune 19 company that's headquartered out of the Columbus area. And that is where I met my partner, Jeff Pedracky. And we were both global security managers for Cardinal Health, which at the time was a Fortune 19 company. He had the central part of the United States in the Americas, like Latin America, South America, and I had the Western United States and Asia as areas of our responsibility for doing global security-related services, physical security, information security, investigations, security planning, security program development for many of the companies that Cardinal grew by acquisition. And so what we would do is go in there and basically kind of get them inculcated with Cardinal security program and how we do things from a security standpoint there. It was during that time that Jeff and I, during many trips that we did together, came up with the idea of starting Armada. And we did that in 2005 with the idea that, on the private sector side, we would be providing security consulting services, security program development, helping people with technologies, helping people with training, to help improve their security posture within their organizations. And early on, we did a lot of work with corporations. We did a lot of work with small, medium, and large businesses, K through 12 schools, higher education, state and local governments, and started doing work with the federal government as a subcontractor after Katrina. There was a lot of disaster preparedness planning that went on and exercises and things like that, because Katrina really exposed some vulnerabilities and flaws that we had in our disaster preparedness system. And we were blessed enough to have some very good emergency management, disaster preparedness professionals that did work with us. You fast forward a little bit, and in 2011, 2012, we started priming our own federal contracts. We, from that point on, from 2011, 2012, incrementally, we've grown in terms of winning contracts either as a prime or as a subcontractor. We still subcontract to other firms. As we stand now, I think we are priming 9 federal contracts, and we are a subcontractor on 3 different contracts. So we're supporting our federal government on about 12 different contracts right now. So I hope that's answered your question in terms of kind of how we got to where we are at right now, but try to give you the Cliff Notes version. So
that's all great. And, it's always wonderful to hear also your journey, because we have so many of our listeners who are transitioning military sort of, yes, you can go out and be part of an entrepreneurial venture. You can do something different than having somebody watching your back. You can go out on your own. So really love hearing that story. So in our pre-call, you talked a little bit about your company being very specialized security related services. So do you want to drill down into that? No pun intended. Drill down into that as to what security, very specialized security related services you offer at ARMADA.
I think the specialized, in my opinion, comes from the positions that we fill and the services that we provide require people to have certain security clearances, because the majority of our clients are federal clients, and they have very distinct needs and very distinct, in terms of the people that are going to support them. So, I kind of rate it kind of like in a way like a 5-star, 4-star, like you rate, college football recruits. They need a clearance. Okay, almost 100% of the time when we fulfill positions in the federal government, they need to have some type of security clearance. Typically, in the clients that we have and the type of contracts that we have, they have to have a TS or above. Okay, they need to have certain certifications. They need to have certain experience. And some of them need to be able to work in SCIFs. So that's what I call very specialized in the information security area, program security officer, physical security specialist, or engineers and things of that nature. But they got to fit in terms of what that agency is looking for. And so we all know this. Our federal government clients, are very distinct in what they're asking for. So we provide it. What we typically do not do is provide guards. We're not like a uniform guard service type of security company. So nothing against that industry. We just chose not to go down that path in terms of having those kind of contracts and things of that nature. So I hope that answered your question in terms of what we mean by specialized. The federal government has very specific things that they want, and we give it to them.
Well, Tom, I knew we would be quick friends because I learned a couple things about you. You're the Ohio State fan, and I'm a Joe Burrow fan, being from Louisiana, so I speak Katrina very well as well. So we can definitely be friends. And speaking of friends,
he was the Browns quarterback.
You know what? We were friends. We were friends for a second there. I have converted to a Bengals fan from a Saints fan just for Joe Burrow, but
I was rooting for him. Trust me, I was rooting for him against Kansas City. I really was. At the end of the day, he's from Ohio, so you got to root for him. So
absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Hey, there's always good times to talk about Joe Burrow. There's never a bad time to talk about football. So, but there's also great times to talk about, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit about the different, the engineers, the program engineers, some of the TS clearances working in SCIFs, kind of touched on it. But is there any other skill set or any other type of security clearance that you want to dig into a little bit more? And maybe where are these positions located?
So, big one that, we go to general quarters for, I'm going to use a Navy term, is when our information system security folk, when we have a vacancy in that area, or we get a new contract that requires those type of people, information system security officers, information system security engineers, are very much in demand right now, not by just us, but by many, many other entities, who are either doing work with the federal government or not doing work with the federal government. I mean, it's across the board. The need for good cybersecurity, information system security people is very, very acute. Other positions that we have, admin positions. I don't know if you're familiar with the term personnel security, which are the people that assist, people that are being processed for background investigations. They do a lot of the, kind of the, if you will, grunt work, so to speak, to get those SF-86s and all those forms filled out the right way so their clearances can get processed and adjudicated. Very much involved with the industrial security area, program protection. We actually do employ some CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, basically SMEs as well, full time. So yeah, I mean it's across the board. If you think of kind of the government related security security tasks and things like that need to be done. Many of our folks work in SCIFs. And I think everybody probably knows what a SCIF is, but it's a sensitive compartmentalized information facility. Okay. And, to work in there, you have to be cleared at the highest level. You have to have a TS-SCI clearance. Some of our folks are supporting special access programs and things of that nature. So, but the positions that are the most challenging for us at times are those information system security people, because they are in such demand kind of across all the different spectrums, market sectors in the United States. And so we're always looking for that kind of talent, if that makes any sense.
It really does. I mean, cybersecurity, information security has grown so much. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. Yes, there's some gray hairs in there. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that it was all called information assurance or information security mm-hmm. one time. And then all of a sudden we came up with this term cybersecurity, and it just sort of exploded. So it's interesting to hear that people are sort of oscillating now between information security officers and cybersecurity officers. So thank you for making that delineation, because I think that there are a lot of long-term professionals out there that do I still have a career? And mm-hmm. yes, you definitely still have a career.
Definitely, yes.
So what would be sort of, if you were able to have your HR and recruiting people come to you and say, I have the perfect candidate. The biggest hiring need we have right now is this, and I have the candidate. What position would you be able to walk around and say, we got him, high five, this is great?
Just what I alluded to, the information system security folks.
Okay.
They are the unicorns, because if you combine the security clearance with the certifications required, the experience that they want them to have, okay, coming in, they don't just want somebody who's been through the 101 courses. They want the 800, 900, the graduate level courses, in terms of, if you want to equate it to like a higher education. One of the things that was really interesting is, I retired from the Marine Corps in 2011 out of the reserves. Back then, the domains of warfare that we were engaged in were air, land, and sea. Okay. Mm-hmm. When I first came up in the late 1980s, early 1990s, we talked about the air, land, and sea. Now we talk air, land, sea, space, and cyber. Okay. Right. There's been 2 more domains added to our, if you will, suite of domains that we have to engage in warfare. And, let's face it, all branches of the federal government are engaged in this cyber fight. Okay. And ergo, I'm throwing a little bit of my Latin out there from all the years that I had to take Latin. It's the getting those people, that talent. I mean, I would tell a young person today, if you have any proclivity towards, computers, information systems, and things of that, go into the security field. It can be very lucrative for you, and it's never going away. It's if you have a good work ethic, and you go and whether you go learn your craft at a university, going to college, or you go in the military and you become a cybersecurity expert or something like that, I got to tell you right now, you're going to be employable. And if you don't want to be in the Department of Defense anymore or associated with national security, guess what? There's private sector entities that need that as well, and need it in a large degree. So anyway.
So I just want to tack on with that. We partner with ISC Squared to run their career center, and they're the entity that does CISSP and a variety of other certifications. So what are the particular certifications that you're looking for?
That's the big one right there. And then, people coming out of the military have their own kind of certification. I don't know it off the top of my head. I would be remiss in also, 8570. I would be remiss if I didn't mention also, like from a hiring needs standpoint, high-fiving is that we have probably over 30 plus people that do personnel security. What I mentioned, the background investigation support type of task that we have. That's a very, in a way, a transient or high turnover kind of area as well. So when we are 100% on PERSEC people or personnel security people, that's another high five kind of thing for us because people vote with their feet. Now, what's really helped with that, now this might be for down the your question list a little bit. Believe it or not, COVID really helped us in that area because many of those positions used to be, hey, you got to be in the office, paper-based system, kind of thing like that. When COVID hit and they sent everybody home, essentially, the government, good on them, man. They pivoted really great. And
they did. They really did.
And we went from being in office 100% of the time to these people being out of office 100% of the time, from paper-based to electronic-based, very, very quickly. And for a lot of these folks, it really helped them with their home situation and things of that nature. And it really it helped us from a retention standpoint. And it's if there's one positive that kind of came out of COVID is it made a lot of people realize that you can be very productive at home,
right?
And you can get the job done at home. And now you obviously know the hybrid work models that are coming out and things of that nature. So I'm sorry if I got ahead of this or not, but that's.
This is a conversation. Happy to hear more about that. But it did remind me that we should ask, where are all your your positions located? I mean, are they centrally located in one particular area, or do you have some that are hybrid?
We got people all over the place. So the majority of our employees are in the DC area. And that's, it's good because when I go to DC about once every month and a half to 2 months to visit employees, to visit clients, we get a chance to see them. It used to be 2 years ago or 3 years ago prior to COVID, if I went and visit some of our largest clients, you'd see them in the office. Now you're lucky if you see a handful in the office of employees because of the hybrid model. But DC is the biggest area, we're biggest concentration of our employees. We have several employees down in the Florida area. One of our clients is their headquarters is in the Hurlburt Field, the Panhandle of Florida. We've got several in California, several in Texas, some in Missouri. Then we got onesie-twosies in Missouri, in Utah, one out in Hawaii, and then we have one out in Iwakuni, Marine Corps Air Station, Iwakuni, Japan. So we got people all over the globe. New Mexico, I forgot New Mexico supporting a client out at Kirtland Air Force Base. So Nevada, Nellis. So we're all over the country.
Absolutely. A lot of diversity. Did you hear that? Anywhere in the globe, pretty much. So much. So many options there. And so for these positions, kind of talking about through the transition that was COVID and kind of the pivot that occurred there and really moving into that more hybrid or remote. Are most of your positions, do they still fall in that hybrid or remote arena, or how is that working for y'all right now?
I'd probably say 50-50 or maybe 60-40 hybrid. The 40%, if you will, whatever that percentage is that still has to go in the office, and those are the people that have the jobs in the SCIFs or work in the very sensitive areas where much of the communication that they have, you can't just do over, kind of traditional or, what do you call it? they got to operate on the high side is probably about the best way I can put it. So those people, it's hard for them to work remotely because of the need for them to be in those the SCIFs and things of that nature. Now, there are some tasks that they can do remotely, and if they need a day where they need to telework for whatever reason, and we work with our government clients all the time to identify those times where they can get work done at home, and if they have a situation with their child or something like that, that's a good option to have. But the majority of our employees now work under the hybrid, working from home, coming to the office once every week or two, one time per pay period or something like that. And that a lot of is driven by our government clients, that what they want. If they want people to come in because they want them to see people face to face and put faces with names and things of that nature, we certainly make that happen for them. And, as much as the hybrid is great, I think it is good. It's been, I think, in many, many ways, very, very positive. I think also what we've lost a little bit, there's some people that have joined our company in the last 2 to 3 years that, sometimes they go in the office, and if we get everybody in for like an event or something like that, they're meeting a lot of people for the very first time, face to face, which, one of the things that you always like is that in-person collaboration. Hey, walk down the hall and, hey, I got this problem. You got a second to help me out with this? Rather than having to go through a Teams call or, call them on the phone or something like that. But I think that's pretty minor, to be honest with you. And I think the upsides of this hybrid are way up there in terms of, for the majority of our employees, that flexibility has really been helpful to them.
So speaking of flexibility and, the pivoting that happened after COVID, we chatted about this before, that the government did such a great job. We've had such a great infrastructure that was put in place before COVID hit to be able to have people have the technology and have the management to be able to do, the pivoting that we ended up having to do. So you've got this big contract with the Department of Justice. And I understand you have this really great story that talks about how you were able to pivot and shows the flexibility of a smaller company, because that's one thing I don't think people understand, is that there is flexibility with a smaller company, mm-hmm. and sometimes you don't have that with a larger company. So care to share more about your story? Yeah.
What was great is that we kind of, in the government spaces where they required people to be in the office, 100% of the time before, that was a requirement. It was a hard requirement. We as an organization were always equipped to be able to operate from anywhere. We always had a philosophy, especially with a lot of our consultants, the security or emergency preparedness consultants. If they have a laptop and a cell phone, they can pretty much work and get their work, job done anywhere, except for the times where they need to do in-person collaboration, because that's what the customer called for. But the pivot, it was February/March of 2020. I was just visited DC, visited our DOJ client. We did we have a great relationship with them. Gave them all a hug, and as we stepped out of the building that day, the next day were all the travel restrictions from Europe and everything else like that, and they started sending people home. We just kind of said, okay, we know how to do this, and almost most of the people that we had computers at home. The government gave us the means by which we can make sure that they, the computers that they had at home could be secured in such a way that they could do, official business. And for those who didn't, we quickly got them laptops. We ARMADA, and they started operating from home within several days, and were productive, got the job done, and our client couldn't have been happier that the transition was relatively seamless. And again, it's reflective right now is that they're okay with the hybrid flexible model now. They don't see a need to bring everybody back to be in office the majority of the time. The work is getting done, and it's actually been a benefit to a lot of our employees that, their family situation is such that the telework or the remote working is a good deal for them. And it's helped us with the retention, and it's helped our client then, because now they got people that are sticking around longer. They're not just, moving from job to job. They feel comfortable, in their position. But I attribute our flexibility to the fact that we kind of operated that way anyway. And we talked to our client on several different occasions of offering telework prior to COVID. And they said, well, we're going to have to wait till the new contract because, recompete to put that requirement in there because of contracting reasons and all that kind of stuff. And that's, we had a Department of State work that did the same thing. They were operating predominantly from home, rarely coming in. And so I think the story. I mean, you've probably heard this a million different times. The world's a lot different from a workplace environment today than it is, March of 2020, late February, early March of 2020. So.
Absolutely.
It's all good stuff.
It's a whole different world, isn't it? It's a fun, brave new world out there. We would love for you to do a little sales pitch on us. So I know an important factor for anybody considering a career, especially our cleared professionals, is really understanding kind of the company philosophy and the culture and what's in it for them. So here is your chance to play Salesman of the Year. We would love for you to sell why ARMADA is the place where people want to plant roots.
Well, I will say this. I mean, sometimes bigger is not always better, okay, in terms of going to companies. I try to, as the president of the company and my vice presidents, we try to, and my partner, try to get out to our client sites as often as we possibly can and meet our employees and meet with our clients. And, what's the word I'm looking for? Get to know them, not just as an employee, but also who they are as a person and things of that nature. And I think you get that with a small company. We're small. We're over 90 full-time equivalent employees right now. So, small is kind of a relative term, but I feel like we're tight knit. And, we've also, why ARMADA too is, I would say, our clients. We've got some great clients. They're good people. I think on every contract that we have, they truly try to make the contractors feel like they're part of the bigger, kind of government contractor team, if you will. And we've had people leave, for instance, on our DOJ contract. We had a very senior guy get offered $15,000 more a year. He went and he took that job. And within a month, he said, I want to come back. He liked us as a company, but he also liked our client, because the client, how do I say it, fostered that cohesive relationship between not just the government team, so to speak, but the government and contractor team. So I will throw that out there. It's not just us as a company, but it's also the great clients that we have. In our DC area, we do a holiday party every year. Obviously, during COVID, we were not able to do that, but we try to get everybody in there to kind of socialize and get to know us personally as well as professionally as well. And that's always, a very fun time for us. We did our first holiday party in the post-COVID era again this year, which was great to see many of our employees show up for that. We do for some people, particularly some of our more critical positions, we do sign-on bonuses. And for our employees, if they bring us very good people that get hired within a kind of a reasonable amount of time, week, 2 weeks, whatever, 3 weeks, they get referral bonuses. Because time is money. In many of our contracts, if we don't have a person fulfilling a particular position, we're losing money. So we incentivize our employees to bring their friends or bring people that they know that are professional, that can be good employees to us. And we are very competitive from a medical standpoint, from a benefits standpoint. We offer essentially the same, healthcare, medical benefits, 401ks and things of that nature that the big companies do. But I think what you're getting at the end of the day is, we value our employees. I mean, employees that do great work, particularly ones who get recognized by our government our government clients. If our government client says, hey, such and such is doing a great job, and let me just tell you what kind of great job they're doing, what we hand out is what we call core value awards, because servicing our clients in the way that they expect, and when our client basically lets us know that, hey, we really value this person and this is why, they're going to get an award from us. And that award's not just a piece of paper with words on it. It's also, they get a bonus in their next paycheck for that. So, we reward our employees for good work. We do evaluations on them, which drives what kind of increase they get in their, the next year and things of that nature. And we brought it up before. We've got telework friendly contracts, that, probably the majority of our people can enjoy being able to work from home as well as going to the office. I think there's still a value to going into the office sometimes. So we've been around for 18 years. We're a very financially stable company. We reflect our Midwestern roots in terms of being very fiscally conservative and things of that nature, and in terms of how we operate our business. So we're not going anywhere. And, so that people can set, like somebody said there, set up some roots and be with us, for many, many years. So we value that.
Sounds awesome. So we talked about you being a Marine, and, we're a veteran-owned company here. So we really like to add some tips for our transitioning veterans out in our audience. But what would the veterans be able to bring to your organization? What are some of the skills and experience that personally, that from your military background, that you then see being of value within ARMADA?
I mean, we could be on here for an hour. I mean,
just a few, maybe the top three.
I would say reliability. We know veterans are very reliable. There's accountability to what they do on a day-to-day basis in the military. Their work ethic is phenomenal. Their dedication is phenomenal. Their ability to work as part of a team is very, very, very important. Where it's not about me, you're doing things for the greater good, not just for yourself. Now you got to watch out for yourself. When you get out to the civilian world and stuff like that, you got to make sure that you're getting compensated fairly for the job that you do, and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your family and things of that nature. So you got to be discriminating. But I think that the things that being reliable people, showing up on time for work, working hard, being a team player, being unselfish, and all those kind of things are going to just bode extremely well for you and for any veteran who comes to the first civ div, as we used to call it in the Marine Corps, or the real world, or whatever you want to call it. Again, I mean, we value veterans in our organization. We have a very, very high percentage of our employees that are veterans. I myself and my business partner are both veterans, and so is much of our leadership team. So there's, to say that veterans are valued in our organization is an understatement. So.
And we thank you for your service. So appreciated, and just you bring something to the table that most can't do, right? You can give advice. You've been there, done that. You have the T-shirt to prove it. So we would love, if you don't mind sharing just a little bit of that advice for these cleared professionals that are making that transition into the real world, as I think I heard you refer it. What are some tips and tricks in their job search that you would recommend for them?
Oh boy. Well,
no pressure. They're just listening
if you're
to
coming
you.
in the government space, a lot of times their resumes and their experience can crosswalk relatively effectively to jobs that are in the contracting world, or particularly if you're looking at veterans that are going to support a DoD related contract or something of that nature. Their qualifications, their clearance, and everything like that will crosswalk very, very well. If you're staying in the government space. If you don't desire to work in the government space, if you want to go work for a private sector, Fortune 500 company or something like that, some of the best advice I can give you is really listen to your transition people when you're going through your transition programs and things of that nature, writing your resume and ensuring your resume is doesn't speak so military, but speaks a little bit more civilian. There was a book when I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps in 1993 to my civilian world. There was a book called "Does Your Resume Wear Combat Boots?" And it was actually pretty good. They gave tips, in terms of how to get. This is my experience in the military or in the Marine Corps. This is how you need to write to it if you're pursuing work in the private sector. You gotta align what you've learned in the military to private sector or industry practices or industry jobs. And, many services have great transition program or, different units or different services I think have improved a lot, in my opinion, over the years of preparing their people for lack of a better term, for the real world. So, writing that resume to real world kind of civilian tasks or jobs and things of that nature. Practice, if you're going to go interview and things of that nature, practice interviewing. Get with somebody that knows kind of how interviews are conducted and things of that nature, whether they be a friend or somebody, that's in business, and have them do interview practice with you. Different branches of service transition differently. The Marine Corps, I can tell you, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift and a cultural shift when people get out of the Marine Corps to come to the civilian world. I know it was interesting for me when I got introduced to, people who had not served in the military, and my mannerisms, my language, my, if you will, kind of like how I conducted myself was very different, and people could tell. But I'm not trying to say change who you are from how the military maybe developed you a little bit like that, but learn how to speak the language, if you will, of the people that you're going to go work with, in both written resume and how you interview, because, believe it or not, I think there's people out in the civilian world that might not quite understand how the military works or how people in the Department of Defense work. The fact that they are part of a team, the fact that the humor could be a little bit different, our language is different and everything like that, but the job is different in most cases. And so the more that you can kind of assimilate back into, the civilian world or things of that nature, slowly but surely, it's not going to happen overnight, but a lot of that can be done through preparation, through, getting interview practicing and making sure your resume is crosswalking to civilian tasks the best way, and be willing to take training. And many organizations, many large companies in particular, have, basically training courses to train people on their, the tasks that they have in the military. And they love military people because of the work ethic. They love the work ethic. They love the fact that you're showing up on time, you're punctual, you're respectful, you can be a part of a team. There's a lot of similarities there. So anyway, hopefully that helps.
Oh, that is just amazing and so helpful. Now, how do our listeners get in touch with you?
Well, we have a website, www.armadausa.com, which posts, where we post all of our positions to. We also post our positions on a wide variety of different applications, social media things, and things of that nature. But our website's probably the best way to learn more about us and get in contact with us and know what we're doing in terms of, the jobs that are being offered and, positions that are vacant and things of that nature. So, www.armadausa.com. So it's probably the best way to get in touch with us.
Awesome.
Tom, thanks so much for being here today. Anu is also very excited that you were here today. I don't know if it's you or the post office that just arrived, but one of those two has got her very excited. But just truly appreciate you spending some time with us, sharing some of your advice, sharing a little bit about Armada. Absolutely. We're so thankful for it. And thank you for your service again.
Well, Oh, no.
Definitely our pleasure. Thanks so much, Tom. Take care.